Alright, so we're slowly coming to a conclusion here. We've got the last piece of the Amonkhet common and uncommon review. We're ending with the artifacts and the lands. There's not all that many of them in the set. We've referenced how there's not many artifacts, so let's jump on through these. The first one we've got is Bantu's Monument. So just a quick little tidbit on these. Each of the gods has a monument. They all do a similar thing for creatures of their particular color, white, blue, black, red, and green. They each make the creature spells of that particular color, cost one less, and there's some other effect when you cast a creature spell. So Bantu's Monument, it costs 3. They're also all legendary and all uncommon. Black creature spells cost 1 less, and whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So for me, just in general, these monuments I'm not all too excited about, just because on par I'd rather just have a card. I'm trying to think of, so what's it gonna take for this to feel like it's an actual card in the deck? So if I play my 5-drop for 4 mana and I gain a life and my opponent loses a life, do I feel like I've gotten a card worth of value out of this yet? I don't think so. It's probably going to take maybe at least 3 creatures before I feel like I've gotten a full card's worth of value.
And that takes turn 3 to tap it out.
Yeah, exactly. You tap out on turn 3, and the fail case for that. So turn 3, you've blown your turn. You have nothing else. You have nothing else you can do.
And they're legendary.
You've wasted your turn. Turn 8, after you've cast a bunch of creatures already, this doesn't really do anything, and you have all of the mana that you want. I'm not excited about this card.
It's not a very good monument. It's not a very good ability. Now, let me ask you one thing. Does Embalm count as a cast?
You are not casting the creature.
So it's an ability.
Embalm is an ability.
So, no, all the monuments here, if they're as bad as this one, I'm just going to see them and say, damn it, why did I open another monument or a foil monument? Like, these monuments, are paying homage to these gods. I'm not sold.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next artifact, Edifice of Authority. Okay, so it's not a monument, thank God. Okay, so it costs 3, just like the other monuments, but it's not legendary. It's an artifact. For 1 and a tap, target creature can attack this turn. Put a brick. Did I read that right?
Brick counter.
Brick counter on Edifice of Authority.
So this is the first instance of brick counters we've seen. This is just another kind of sub-theme mechanic. You can see working towards what multiple brick counters do. And
now, when I put brick counters on artifacts, does that mean I'm building?
Yeah. Yeah, you're building towards something. And well, the second part.
Tap 1 and a tap until your next turn. Target creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. Activate this ability only if there are 3 or more brick counters. So it gets better with the brick counters. Can attack this turn, and then so first it can attack, and then once you've built enough and you got 3 bricks in there, it can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So putting the brick counters on it leads to the second ability, which is better.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So are you doing it, or are your servants building these kind of things?
Well, I mean, the mummies of Amonkhet are building everything, but this card I like. We saw that the mummy tapper in white we like that card. Just being able to tap something down is a good ability. Granted, this doesn't tap the creature down, but for the most part, this is doing exactly what you want. By that type of effect, you don't want their big creature to attack you.
Right, you don't.
You use this ability, and the fact that this only costs 1 is quite good. You use it 3 times, and then it just becomes broken.
So great.
It's broken.
This
at
card
that point.
it's a cheaper Icy Manipulator that doesn't tap lands, but you hardly ever tap lands when you're playing 5-drop, 6-drop creatures, because you want to stop those creatures. And it stops activated abilities, and then you could use multiple ones. This card is good. I want to build towards my Edifice of Authority and just dominate creatures.
Yeah, exactly. You use this if you know they do have the multicolor cards, like the black red, the Minotaur, where you pay 2 and discard.
Right. no longer.
You use that in the beginning of your opponent's upkeep, and it forces them to use that ability, or they can't use it for the rest of the turn, and it kind of nullifies it. There's a bunch of other activated abilities, and later on in the game, you can tap 2 potential blockers and just swing. I feel like this card's going to be pretty good, and I'd be happy to play it, especially in my controlling deck, and it feels like it might be a little too slow for the aggressive decks because you have to use it 3 times before it starts tapping down blockers.
Right.
But it doesn't tap down anything. It just prevents them from blocking. But I like this card.
I think this card's going to be annoying to play against, and the fact that you could use multiple ones will fit in that nice control deck. But yeah, it's not very aggressive because it doesn't make them block right away, but thank God it doesn't make them... it doesn't stop their blocks right away, and then it stops their attacks later. So you're stopping their attack first, which is always probably the better part of the card, because you're playing defense with it. But we'll see how this card pans out. I think maybe one of would be nice because you can build to it. It is a slow build to, but I think it's overall a decent card.
Yep.
So
next up, we've got Embalmer's Tools. It's an artifact. It's uncommon. It costs 2. Activated abilities of creature cards in your graveyards cost 1 less to activate, and tap an untapped zombie you control. Target player puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. I love the flavor of this card. I hate its applications. I don't think it's going to be that good. You're probably going to have... it's going to scale with your deck. And it's cute how the abilities kind of play off of each other because your embalmed tokens are zombies, and then you can mill yourself, I guess, to try and put more embalmed creatures and make them cheaper. But this effect is not worth a card, and the only time it's worth a card is if you do it probably 6 times.
Right. I mean, it's not good because you're trying to mill yourself, which in late game... it might mill you out if you get to that point. You don't want to try and mill them because they have embalm. It costs 1 less to activate, so that's only when you're trying to embalm. It falls short so many levels that I just don't want to play this card.
Yeah, this card is a pass.
Yeah.
Our next artifact, Gate to the Afterlife. This costs 3 mana. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. Then you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Okay, so that seems okay. And also has an ability to tap, sacrifice Gate to the Afterlife, search your graveyard, hand, and or library for a card named God Pharaoh's Gift, and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it, activate this ability only if there are 6 or more creature cards in your graveyard.
Okay. So God Pharaoh's Gift must do something that... We've gone by it yet?
That card doesn't exist in this set.
Oh, so we have kind of an Eye of Ugin card.
They pulled
here.
an Eye of Ugin.
They did. Us. They pulled an Eye of Ugin. So we can't really.
What set was Eye of Ugin in?
World Wake.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Eye of Ugin was in World Wake, and they didn't. That reduces the cost of Eldrazi spells by 2, and they didn't print Eldrazi until.
Rise from the Eldrazi. 1 set later.
Yep, a set later.
So another mystery card to add to Dark Intimations now. So we're waiting 2 sets to see this stuff. But
so we'll see what this card does. So we can really only evaluate it based on the information we do have of whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you gain a life, then you may draw a card and then discard a card. I don't think this effect is worth a card by itself. Maybe later on when we know what the God Pharaoh's Gift is, maybe then it'll certainly be a lot better. As Eye of Ugin probably was for the Eldrazi, but for now, this card is a pass.
We can make a couple guesses at what it's going to be, but that could go on all night, so maybe in another episode. But I think it's going to be really cool, actually. So
for now, pass. Maybe when the Hour of Devastation comes out, we can revisit. Yes. Hazoret's Monument is next. This is our next in the monuments. This is the red monument. It costs 3, just like the others. Red creatures cost 1 less. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So this one has Rummage. Similar. Yeah. I like this ability a little bit more than the Gain and Drain.
Not even enough to be a far reach to even consider this card.
Yeah, this card's better than the black one, certainly. It's definitely better because, the kind of card advantage or rather, it's not card advantage, it's card selection that you get. And... sure, but I'm still not playing this card.
Yeah. So bad medallion and a bad ability will pass.
Yep.
All right, on to the next artifact, Honed Kopish. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. It looks like an equipment. Yes, our first equipment of the set.
Yep.
Costs 1. It taps 1 to equip. Equipped creature gets +1/+1.
So what was this in Mirrodin?
It was a sword, a scimitar, the Leonin scimitar.
Yep.
So it's just an exact copy of that card, which wasn't. It was well rounded,
Yeah.
not as good as Bone Splitter.
Yeah.
But more fair.
Yeah, kind of like you want your combat tricks to be cheap. You want your equip costs to be cheap.
Right.
That being said, this is it's okay.
It is what it is.
It's
a
okay.
basic equipment.
The +1/+1 is not that exciting.
The only time I ever take equipment is when I'm going like cheap blue, white flyers,
Yep.
or some kind of evasion.
And that's in an evasive deck. This is where this will make the cut more so than just if you're in green red and you have just big creatures. This doesn't
right.
matter.
And I usually end up cutting those cards anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly. I could see this being a 23rd card. You're a little bit upset about it, but a 23rd card in your like blue, white, and Balm Flyers deck. But otherwise, it's probably a pass. Next up is Kefnit's Monument. Once again, this is a monument. It costs 3. It's uncommon, except this one, Kefnit's the blue god, so this is blue creatures cost 1 less. And whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature an opponent controls doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step.
You don't tap it; it just doesn't untap. Right? No, you didn't say that. I'm just saying. So it's not even tapped. So
This card is so bad.
Jeez,
this card is bad. I just kind of implicitly inserted the tap target creature where I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe this one's serviceable. No, this card's garbage.
I don't even know if you said tap. I was just.
No, whenever target creature and opponent. I'm glad you actually reread that one for me. Yeah, this card's not good.
Right, it's just not good because cards like this want to tap something in the first place so they don't tap. But this is, okay, well, I already had to tap. That means it's already done something, so you have to wait for these things to happen.
Yeah, so in blue, we had the compelling deterrence, where that card you want to use that aggressively. You want to actively tap down and they don't untap.
Yes.
Using it defensively doesn't really do anything for you. It buys you turn, but you still have to deal with them. The same thing goes for the Kefnit's Monument. You don't even have the aggressive potential of actively tapping down the creatures. Where if you were playing your creatures, that might be okay. Which, like I assumed, using this is merely defensive.
Right.
It's not good. No.
These monuments are like
this one became probably the worst.
Like monuments. Just do not take them.
Monuments. I like
monuments.
They're monuments, especially this one. What we got next?
Luxor River Shrine. So for 3, it's an artifact. 1 and a tap, you gain 1 life, and then you put a brick counter on Luxor River Shrine. So more building here. Then for tap, you gain 2 life. Activate this ability if there are 3 or more brick counters on it. So kind of like a Fountain of Youth here that will gain 2. I do not like this card.
Yeah, no. It just gains you life.
Yes.
It doesn't really.
It just gains you.
It's 3 mana, so it's 3 and then 6. So it's 6 mana and 4, possibly 4 turns. You could possibly do it in 3 if you play this on turn 4. So it's 6 mana and on average 4 turns, 3 or 4 turns to be able to gain 3 life, and then you can start gaining 2 life a turn.
So then after those turns, it'll be like 3, 5, 7. Yeah.
Don't even do the math. This is a non-card.
Yeah.
The fact that we even had to look at it for that long is
You only want to gain life when you're doing damage at the same time. It's called lifelink. Look it up. And okay. So
this is not the greatest.
Right. Should we even skip the monument? Okay, let's just go over how bad it is. Oketra's Monument. So I think that's the white god. 3. White spells cost 1. 1 less. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior with vigilance. So is this?
This one's actually approaching playable. Because it does something unlike the other ones. It does. And it has a lasting effect. Granted, the 1/1s with vigilance are unexciting, but they're there. They stay there. It's an effect that
Should we play this card? Should we play this card? We can't stack them, so we can hit multiple dudes per creature.
If you're in blue white and you have that blue white, your artifact, your tokens get flying. You maybe.
Maybe.
The thing is, this card, when you want to be playing creatures, obviously, and so the black monument, you gained one, drained one whenever you played a creature. This one, I think about it as, at worst case scenario, the one's a chump blocker. And it gains you 4 life, 3 life, 5 life, maybe even 6 or 7 life. So that's not bad. I don't think I want to play this one, but if I was going to play a monument thus far, this is the one I would play.
Okay, so not always a non-mint, but maybe mint. So.
Yeah. Okay. And looks like one of our last. We've got 2 more artifacts. We've got Ronus's monument. So the only one we haven't covered yet, the green one. Green creatures cost 1 less. Whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature you control gains +2/+2 and gains trample.
Well,
yeah, this is it's okay. It's a little strange. You definitely want to be curving out,
right?
But this effect is largely replaceable.
It's also you want to play creatures before you attack, and that seems like
exactly. I'm not. I wasn't even putting it that. I wasn't even thinking that far down. But you definitely don't want to be. You don't want to be showing your hand and opening yourself up to a removal spell.
Right.
You tap out. You tap out in your second main phase if you're going to be tapping out, not before you attack.
Especially in green, where you don't have many ways to do other things, like kind of hide what you're doing. You don't want to play your creatures first. +2/+2 and trample is cool, but how many times is that going to happen for 3 mana investment? Not many times.
And I think just like with all of the other ones, top decking this one late game is just so bad.
So bad.
And then, unlike the other ones, it kind of forces your hand and it gives your opponent all of the information, which the more information you can conceal from your opponent, the better off you're going to be. So, a monument. And I think out of all of them, I like the white one the best, but that is a very, very low bar.
Right. We're talking about going from 0 stars to maybe a half star. That's at least in my opinion. So.
Yeah, exactly. And our final artifact is the Watchers of the Dead. It costs 2. It's an artifact creature cat. Also uncommon. It's a 2/2, so we've got another bear, but this one's colorless, so I guess it technically goes in any deck. Exile Watchers of the Dead. Each opponent chooses 2 cards in his or her graveyard and exiles the rest. That's such a weird ability.
I wanted to like this card when I thought that it did something that it doesn't, but now
it doesn't exile a specific card?
Yes.
Yep.
2 of them at that. So, I'm...
In fact, it does the opposite. It gives them the choices of which 2 cards they get to keep.
So they get to keep 2.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of those white wraths where they get to keep 1 creature and just stack the rest. So no. I mean, it is a 2/2 for 2, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it splashes. It's a cat. It does have a chance to exile if they have 8 embalmed creatures in the graveyard, but that is not going to happen.
Yeah, it's this card's super underwhelming.
The only thing really I would think it would stop is Threshold, but we don't see Threshold matter here.
No, it doesn't matter. There's one card that cares about the number of things in your graveyard. It's the Serpent that can't attack unless you have 5 or more cards in your graveyard.
Yes, and to go against the Serpent's ability is just going to slow him down, and you're going to lose a creature. What you want to be doing is attacking, and not exiling.
We've said it multiple times before. If you're going to be playing a 2/2 for 2, it has to have some actually impactful ability. It has to have an ability. So this meets the bare minimum checkbox of having an ability, but it doesn't actually do anything. So
unimpressed. Move on.
Yep. That said, if you need a 2/2, it slots into any deck because it's colorless.
That's about it. So
that kind of wraps up our artifacts. This is exactly why Destroy Target Artifact doesn't really matter in the set. They're all kind of boring. They're not that exciting. The only one that actually matters is the Edifice.
Right.
The one that prevents things from attacking or prevents activated abilities. But even then,
the off occasion, there's a rare one that's going to hit.
Exactly.
You can't count on that. Just don't worry about artifacts.
Yeah,
just don't
exactly. If you see it, you'll have plenty of sideboard card options.
And if anyone plays a monument, just kind of laugh in their face and just know that you just got up a card ahead.
You can just exactly. Just play your creature, and now you have your creature when they don't.
Yeah.
And finally, we move on to our other colorless cards, the lands. The first one we've got is the Cradle of the Cursed. It's a desert. Hey, so we've seen cards that mention deserts. It's a new land subtype, I guess. This one taps for colorless mana. It's got pretty cool art. And it has 3 tap, sacrifice Cradle of the Accursed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, activate this at any time you may cast a sorcery. This card's pretty good. It's not that bad, because it feels like this set isn't in the market for splashing multiple colors. It's definitely a 2-color set.
Yep.
You can afford to play 1 colorless land, and when your land comes with an ability, it's automatically good.
Right. And the fact that you could ramp it with the uncommon green creature, cycle ability, it's good. You can get that creature. You tap 3 in it. You have to do it like a sorcery, but it seemed kind of hard to be playing colorless. Colorless lands just to make a creature.
Yeah.
When you want it, because you seems like you want to go 2 different colors with all those those multicolored guys.
Yeah.
And then this one just kind of throws you off that. Just to get a maybe if you need to get that desert target, but other than that, I don't think we.
I'd certainly play. I'd play this card if I got one of these. I'd play this as my one colorless.
As your one of
my one colorless land. If your colored mana requirements aren't so restrictive, which I can't foresee them being, and I'm gonna definitely not try to draft the deck that has very strict color requirements. You should be able to afford 1 colorless land, and when you get a free creature off of a land that's even turn 7, you just get it off of this creature. It comes at sorcery speed. That's okay. It's just value that you just now you have a creature when you had this extra land that wasn't doing anything for you. I like this card. It's not great, and I'm not claiming that it's going to win you the game, but you get a free 2/2 later in the game when you don't need land.
Right. It's not great, but it seems like a desperation move. And so many times I've gone 2 colors and only gotten no mana fixing, and gotten 2 of the 1 colors when I need another one, or vice versa, and then just to add this thing in there that could even throw another wrench into that machine, it's just not going to be worth it just for a creature, and that has to be a sorcery speed. We'll see. I mean, I could get beat down with a bunch of 2/2 black zombies coming from these edifices, and I might think otherwise later on.
Well, I mean, if you're playing multiple, I think it's wrong to play multiple.
Multiple, yeah.
But I think your mana base should be safe, such that you can probably get 1, and if you you're getting a 2/2 for free.
Yeah, I mean, well, for 4 mana, basically.
Yeah, but it didn't cost you a card.
Right, it didn't. And it tapped for mana to get there, too, probably. So.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do that. I would not advocate doing this on turn 4.
Right.
Certainly not. But on turn 7, a 2/2 sure is not going to be that effective, but it's better than just having an extra planes.
Yeah, but the turn 7, then it's going to take you 1 mana away from your 7/7 hexproof or your 6/7 hexproof. So we'll see.
Oh, okay, whatever. You can create every scenario for why it's bad. I'm just saying you get a free 2/2 zombie.
That black zombie, we've seen a lot of white zombies. This is a black one. So it is a little different here. So what is that? Just it's a regular zombie because it's not a mummy.
Well, zombies are black in black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're all now they're in white, so now we have white and black zombies, which is that sub team. So if you do get that black white zombie that gains and drains when they come into play.
Oh, there you go, a little bit extra synergy. Yeah, but
we'll see. We'll see.
Enough land. If you get it, it's okay enough to play. If your mana requirements aren't too strict, and I guess if you're not splashing a 3rd color. Right. Evolving Wilds is next. All right, it's back.
A high pick for me. I love this card. It comes into play tapped, but in formats like this, it allows me a small chance, a little bit more to go 3 colors and be a little bit more greedy.
Yeah.
I usually end up not going 3 colors, but just having that land that can get you either or and add more graveyard fuel and thinning out your deck is good. Comes into play tapped. You don't want to do too many of them. It's not a particular 3-4 color set here, but Evolving Wilds is a proven card. I know how it works, and I like it. So
yeah, 2 color decks you'll play in Evolving Wilds, just to make sure you can get your colors if you need it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it helps with a splash if you happen to want to splash like a slightly off color bomb rare.
Right. Yeah. If you do that, have to do that 3 colors.
That third splash color.
That third splash.
It works.
What about art on this new one?
Oh, this one's sick. I love the art.
Yeah, sick. I mean, it's kind of unlike the other ones, and it goes with this desert theme. Whereas when that dust clears, you're kind of gonna see like a oasis
exactly
or another mountain, or exactly how Evolving Wilds works. And, yeah. Cool. So onto our second desert.
Here we go.
Grasping Dunes is what this one is called. It's a desert. Tap to add a colorless, or you can, for one tap, sacrifice Grasping Dunes, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Activate this ability only when you could play a sorcery. So we have another questionable one here. So what's better, a 2/2 black zombie for 3 in a tap, or a -1/-1 counter for a 1 in a tap?
It actually might even scale with the way that your deck builds. I think either of these thus far I would play as my 17th land.
You're one of them.
Yeah, exactly. As my quote unquote splash, because it's a colorless splash. It's great when you have effects on lands. They're free effects in the sense that they don't cost a card. Obviously, they cost mana, but like we've said before, the -1/-1 counter sticks around. Sometimes it neutralizes a creature, and if you just so happen to be in green-black, this effect scales a lot.
Right.
Because it just gets way better.
So they both kind of complement the decks. The first one, the black-white zombie deck. This one, the black-green, put a counter on your dude deck.
Well, not just black-white zombie, the tokens, if there's tokens that matter.
They kind of have reach outside of those two, but they do completely different things. One is kind of a cheap little counter thrown on one of your opponent's guys, and then the other one is kind of a 2/2 zombie coming into play. So I think I want these cards to do so much more, but they're both deserts, and
I think if they did so much more, they might be broken.
Yes, I mean
you can't put too strong of an effect on a land, because lands don't use the stack. The ability uses the stack, but lands come into play. They can't be countered. Like this, you're getting this effect for free. You don't have to put a card in your deck to do it.
A land that has the word cradle in its title has a lot to live up to. So that's all I gotta say.
Okay, so. That's fair. That's fair. Our next one is Painted Bluffs. It's yet another desert, and it is tap, add a colorless mana to your mana pool, or 1 tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. I think you can see Dash's kind of reaction. We've seen Shimmering Grotto, or whatever name you're going to
Transguild Promenade,
Transguild Promenade, or whatever name you're going to give to this type of effect. It's not good.
The reason why we're not remembering the names is because we don't draft these cards.
Yeah, you don't ever play this card. It's not good.
It's really hard to play these cards. We were questioning about using the other lands that tap for 1 that makes zombies. These lands set you back, and it only takes 1 activation to set you back. If
it's mana disadvantage. Yeah,
mana disadvantage. It's hardly ever worth it. You only do this if you were foolish enough to go, or greedy enough to go 5 colors, right? But then I just think that it's bad, and it's just a bad decision, and it's just a series of mistakes that this land can lead to.
You're probably not all too well off if you're playing multiple colors, and then you have to cast your 5 drops. Cost 6 mana. Your 4 drops cost 5 mana. You're not getting ahead in that game, so just don't do it.
It's going to slow you down in a very slow deck, and it's just don't do it.
Yep.
All right. Do we have another desert coming
our
up?
Final
desert, Sun-Scorched Desert. So it is a desert type. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target player. Tap to add 1. Unless you're going against a planeswalker or something that you want to kill, or if you have 19 of these, 20, and you just want to play a colorless deck, I don't like this card.
Yeah, neither do I.
No,
it's really not worth the effect. So we talked about how we had a discussion about the Cradle of the Accursed or the Grasping Dunes. We'd consider those as like the 17th land, it being the colorless one. But why wouldn't we consider this one? This has an effect. It's colorless. What's the problem? It's just this effect is so minimal that it's not. Any time you put an off-color land in your deck, there is the risk that you draw it early, and you need a certain color of mana to be able to play. But that risk is mitigated with the effect being relatively powerful compared to the risk on Cradle and the Grasping Dunes, whereas this one just deals 1 damage, just pings. It's not worth it by any stretch.
And I don't think there's many bounce lands back to your hands to abuse it with. There's not really a full-on burn deck archetype that they're giving us here, and all it takes is them to gain 1 life to negate this effect, and then you're stuck with a desert basically. That this card is basically you're stuck in the desert. So Don't draft this card.
Yeah,
in
you
other
don't have to play
formats, it's kind of interesting how it might interact with some permanents, planeswalkers, whatnot. But yeah, don't go this card unless you need to search for a desert. But then you can search for a basic land anyway with that one card. So just don't
exactly.
go this card. No.
There's of the lands that we're seeing, there's a couple that you might play: the Evolving Wilds, the Cradle, or the Grasping Dunes. You don't have to play them; they'll end up coming around. There should really never be high picks.
Right.
There's some extra value that you might get out of them, but
Yeah.
your deck won't be amiss without
Right.
them.
Of all of them, Evolving Wilds, I'm going to stick true to, and that's not even a high pick because that one comes into play tapped. So I think you should be well off with just basic lands. Just go with the basic lands.
Yeah, the format it shows you by the type of fixing provided in the lands. There's not any multicolor fixing except for the really poor painted bluffs, which you shouldn't be playing, and the set wants you to go 2 colors.
Yeah, and as you kind of were saying, it is kind of a slow format. So you, if you just go basic lands, and you eventually will, kind of your land base should pan out if you did it correctly.
Yeah.
If you did the ratio, you don't have to worry about like a super aggro start to all this. You should be able to cast those worms most games. So I think you don't have to worry about your land base too much, and maybe stay away from these deserts unless you have an alternate plan. But just don't throw them in there expecting to, go the distance with a bunch of 2/2 zombies from these cradles. So.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been the Amonkhet Commons and Uncommons release. We're
That was
super,
it.
super excited to be able to actually get our hands on this set and get down and dirty in this brand new desert oasis world and see what kind of fun new things some of the mechanics are here to provide. I'm really excited.
What are you the most excited for?
Oh, what am I the most excited for? Oh, geez. I wish you wouldn't put me on the spot like that. I really like... I feel like in this set, and I've talked to a bunch of people about it, and we all kind of share similar sentiments, it doesn't feel like we've had really good late game mana sinks in a while, and I feel like every which way you turn, there's something like that in this deck. Or in this set. You cycle to bridge... cycling is kind of a caveat of that. You cycle to bridge the gap to your late game so you can play your 7-drops, and you have big 7-drops, 6 and 7 drops, where you don't feel bad playing them, and you have Embalm that you can get back from your graveyard, and you have another creature that you can spend your mana on. Or the Aftermath cards where they're expensive for the effect, but they're implied 2-for-1s on cards, and that seems really awesome to me.
Yeah. Well, second half of Aftermath and dropping worms is awesome. I mean, I'm really excited just to put -1 counters. It's back for a good reason.
Yeah.
I want to put them on my opponent's creatures, but in the meantime, I might have to put them on my own creatures. I just can't wait to exert a bunch of creatures in one turn and just go the distance and just kind of like the last hurrah, getting these guys down all at once and doing a big exert attack, but then not even have to worry about untapping because you just did all the damage, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess that's true. This is going to be a really exciting set, really super set for limited. We hope you're real hyped for your pre-releases wherever you're going to be at, and there's going to be more coming from Collector Legion with these set reviews, with Hopper, with more games and commentary. So subscribe to the channel, take a look, always leave comments. We love to chat, and we'll be seeing you next time.